So today we're ready to install our Moogo console on a stucco wall. This is how we're going to do it. The tools that we're going to need today are just going to be a regular level, our Moogo install template, and then a cordless drill. So let's get started. So first thing, we're going to find the location where we're going to install the console on the wall. We're going to use the template and we're going to mark our holes. Now, I like to start by marking my holes, then I'm going to take my level and go back and make sure that my holes are straight, but at least I know where my spacing needs to be. All right, and now we're ready to drill our holes. So for stucco, we're going to want to use a masonry bit. And for these anchors that we're using today, I'm using a 1/4 inch drill bit. So now we're ready to install our anchors. So now that our anchors are installed, now we're going to install the screws that are included with the kit. So when installing our screws, we want to make sure that we leave about 3/8 of an inch hanging out of the wall anchor. So we're going to mount the holes that are on the back of the box onto these screws that we've anchored into the wall now. And that's how you mount your Moogo console onto a stucco wall. So here's a pro tip for you. When you're installing the system, be sure you're going to take your tubing. You're going to notice it's got 4 zip ties on it. Don't cut all 4 zip ties, because then the tubing will come unraveled and it'll ball up and get knots. So what you want to do is you want to just leave one, and that way you can just feed it through and then get the length that you need. A lot of times I like to go ahead and cut my tubing 8 feet, and then I'll join it together with the fittings while I'm doing the install. So another pro tip is after you've cut your first tubing to 8 feet, you use this as your template. So you line up the ends and then you just feed it through, making sure to hang on to both so you feel your slack, and then you just make your cut. When making your cut, you need to make sure that you get it a very clean cut. So just lay it in that valley and it's nice and clean. So now that we've already cut our tubing into 8-foot lengths, what we're going to do is we're going to connect it on the ground. That way it's one less thing we have to worry about when we're up on the ladder. So I connect my sections end to end, and then I string it out. For this particular section right here, it's going to take 3 joints. So we're going to get started and hang this now. All right, here's another pro tip for you. When you're out doing your install and it comes to a termination, the kit is going to come with a couple of elbows, and it's going to come with a couple of plugs as well. These are used for your terminations. So you can see the plug on the end of the T here. And then we also have an elbow. Either of these is a good option. But if you're in a bind, you've used all of your plugs, you've used all your elbows, here's another option you can do. You can take a leftover T, cut a short piece of tubing, route it back into itself, and then that'll create a termination. Now, I probably wouldn't recommend leaving it like this, but it'll at least get you through the install until you can order a plug or an elbow to clean it up. So those are a couple of tips. So the ideal location to install the nozzles is going to be behind this fascia board up against the soffit. So that way there's a lot less of the tip noticeable, and you're able to hide it and conceal it a little bit better. So this is a termination at the end of the run, and I'm going to use my 1/2 inch clip on the union body here on this elbow. We're going to use the self-drilling screws, and then also we're going to use a 1/4-inch tubing clip to secure the tubing to the soffit as well. When it comes to working with Hardy, you can use the screws, so we also offer a Pro Clip. The Pro Clip has got the screw already mounted into the clip. Just makes it a little bit quicker when you're up on a ladder doing installs into the Hardy. So next, I'm going to attach my 1/4-inch clip to the nylon tubing to hold it in place, make everything nice and clean and straight. So when installing your tubing clips onto the tubing, you want to make sure that you leave about 3 fingers distance between the nozzle body cuff and the clip. This is because during the winter time, the nylon tubing has a tendency to shrink a little bit. And if you put this clip right up next to the cuff, what it'll do is put pressure against the cuff and press, and then it'll pull the tubing out. And then in the spring, when you start the system up, you got to do a lot of troubleshooting. So before I get it all the way in, I'm going to pull nozzle body and then tighten the tubing. That way everything is clean between point A to point B. Then the next, hold it in place, pull it tight so it's nice and straight. And that's how you do it. So here's another pro tip for you. When you're coming up to a corner here and you still want a nozzle, but you want to make a nice clean 90-degree turn, here's a little trick. Let's take your T-fitting, instead of connecting it into the bottom, you're going to connect into the side. So that way we've got our tubing coming into the bottom and our tubing coming out. And we've got a nozzle here and we still have a nice, clean, straight line. So there's another little pro tip for you.